When Pat Mills was working out 2000 AD, he asked me to read over his stories and make suggestions, and the one story that he didn't have was a tough cop. And so really Dredd sprang from my experiences on Valiant, and being future, one could take that just a stage further, the dirty cop aspect of it. And the beauty of Dredd is that he is both hero and villain.
It made science fiction available to a young audience, which it hadn't really been before. Science fiction stories were always for adults. So this was something new.
I like the way that there's a kind of a humorous edge. There is something deeply funny and evil. I mean, it's a very, very kind of black humour thing about him. And I think that's what really kind of appeals.
The cover you've did at the moment, is your favourite because you've put an awful lot of effort into it and stuff. And then what happens is whenever you go on move to the next one, all your focus is put onto that. I do sort of like the first one I've ever did because there's enough time distance now, between that and me basically, it almost looks like somebody else drew it. I mean, sometimes it'd be an artist does one image of Dredd and it looks it's iconic and dramatic, and you would look at that and you'll say, I want to do something similar to that. Not copying it, but it's like as an inspiration in a sense.
My collection started because I wanted a Halloween costume, and I've normally gone, I have a club in Manchester called Antwerp Mansion, and I've normally gone each year as a character out of Lord of the Rings. So I've gone as Ring Wraiths and Witch King, something like that. And I wanted something different for a particular year. It was about 2.5 years ago. So I started casting my eyes around for a different costume that I could wear. And I remembered watching the Judge Dredd movie, the 2012 version, and thinking what a great costume that was. So I decided to see if I could get some bits and pieces, mainly the helmet and so on. And then when I went online, I found this huge community of people who replicate all the Dredd stuff. So it was actually quite simple to put a full costume together. I think this costume is a really wonderful translation of what you see in the comic book into something more believable and more wearable.
Back in those days, the culture was you would launch a comic, and a couple of years later, when the circulation dropped below an acceptable level, you would merge it into another, and that's what I imagined would happen to 2000 AD. We also had the philosophy never to run a character continuously, because it freshens them up if you can drop them and bring them back. So I thought Dredd was maybe good for two series of maybe 16 parts each, and if he was lucky he'd get a third, and here we are.
I think there's something about him. I think it's a full creation. I think it's like he's a complete concept. Like say Superman is a complete concept, or Batman, to a degree, is a complete concept. I think there's something kind of holistic, if you will, like something hermetically sealed about the character.
Things endure, things that are relative, and people can relate to them. So people relate to Dredd in such a way that it's slightly fascist kind of anti-hero thing, and it's people always like things that are just a wee bit wrong, or a wee bit it's out of their comfort zone, or it's out of normal life.
As long as they maintain the humour along with the science fiction, I think there'll always be a place for 2000 AD.